Good evening. This will be the June 20th Phoenix Union High School District Governing Board meeting.
Because there's a test check. Test 1, 2.
This is who we are. We're more than a phrase on a poster, a poem in a book, or a mural on a wall.
This is who we are. It's a testament to our resilience, our compassion, our hopes, and our dreams.
Somos inclusivos, somos dinámicos, somos diversos.
In Phoenix Union, we strive to be greater no matter the path we choose for our lives.
We welcome, love, and inspire all to go places and do things that matter.
Our teachers believe in us, our staff supports us, our administrators motivate us, and above all, our district believes in us.
This is who we are is more than a saying.
It represents our greatest purpose, showcases our talents, highlights our strengths, and reminds us that we can do all things together.
This is who we are.
Esto es quién somos. Achmato the widget atom.
This is who we are. We are Phoenix Union.
This is who we are. We're more than a phrase on a poster, a poem in a book, or a mural on a wall.
This is who we are. It's a testament to our resilience, our compassion, our hopes, and our dreams.
Somos inclusivos, somos dinámicos, somos diversos.
In Phoenix Union, we strive to be greater no matter the path we choose for our lives.
We welcome, love, and inspire all to go places and do things that matter.
Our teachers believe in us, our staff supports us, our administrators motivate us, and above all, our district believes in us.
This is who we are is more than a saying.
It represents our greatest purpose, showcases our talents, highlights our strengths, and reminds us that we can do all things together.
This is who we are.
Esto es quién somos. Achmato the widget atom.
This is who we are. We are Phoenix Union.
This is who we are. We're more than a phrase on a poster, a poem in a book, or a mural on a wall.
This is who we are. It's a testament to our resilience, our compassion, our hopes, and our dreams.
Somos inclusivos, somos dinámicos, somos diversos.
In Phoenix Union, we strive to be greater no matter the path we choose for our lives.
We welcome, love, and inspire all to go places and do things that matter.
Our teachers believe in us, our staff supports us, our administrators motivate us, and above all, our district believes in us.
This is who we are is more than a saying.
It represents our greatest purpose, showcases our talents, highlights our strengths, and reminds us that we can do all things together.
This is who we are.
Esto es quién somos. Achmato the widget atom.
This is who we are. We are Phoenix Union.
This is who we are. We're more than a phrase on a poster, a poem in a book, or a mural on a wall.
This is who we are. It's a testament to our resilience, our compassion, our hopes, and our dreams.
Somos inclusivos, somos dinámicos, Somos diversos.
Di nije auda nit'e.
In Phoenix Union, we strive to be greater no matter the path we choose for our lives.
We welcome, love, and inspire all to go places and do things that matter.
Our teachers believe in us. Our staff supports us. Our administrators motivate us. And above all, our district believes in us.
This is who we are is more than a saying.
It represents our greatest purpose, showcases our talents, highlights our strengths, and reminds us that we can do all things together.
This is who we are.
Esto es quién somos. Achmato the widget outcome.
This is who we are.
We are Phoenix Union.
This is who we are. We're more than a phrase on a poster, a poem in a book, or a mural on a wall.
This is who we are. It's a testament to our resilience, our compassion, our hopes, and our dreams.
Somos inclusivos. Somos dinámicos. Somos diversos.
Di nije auda nit'e.
In Phoenix Union, we strive to be greater no matter the path we choose for our lives.
We welcome, love, and inspire all to go places and do things that matter.
Our teachers believe in us. Our staff supports us. Our administrators motivate us. And above all, our district believes in us.
This is who we are is more than a saying.
It represents our greatest purpose, showcases our talents, highlights our strengths, and reminds us that we can do all things together.
This is who we are.
Esto es quién somos. Achmato the widget outcome.
This is who we are.
We are Phoenix Union.
This is who we are. We're more than a phrase on a poster, a poem in a book, or a mural on a wall.
This is who we are. It's a testament to our resilience, our compassion, our hopes, and our dreams.
Somos inclusivos. Somos dinámicos. Somos diversos.
Di nije auda nit'e.
In Phoenix Union, we strive to be greater no matter the path we choose for our lives.
We welcome, love, and inspire all to go places and do things that matter.
Our teachers believe in us. Our staff supports us. Our administrators motivate us. And above all, our district believes in us.
This is who we are is more than a saying.
It represents our greatest purpose, showcases our talents, highlights our strengths, and reminds us that we can do all things together.
This is who we are.
Esto es quién somos. Achmato the widget outcome.
This is who we are.
We are Phoenix Union.
This is who we are. We're more than a phrase on a poster, a poem in a book, or a mural on a wall.
This is who we are. It's a testament to our resilience, our compassion, our hopes, and our dreams.
Somos inclusivos. Somos dinámicos. Somos diversos.
Di nije auda nit'e.
In Phoenix Union, we strive to be greater no matter the path we choose for our lives.
We welcome, love, and inspire all to go places and do things that matter.
Our teachers believe in us, our staff supports us, our administrators motivate us, and above all, our district believes in us.
This is who we are is more than a saying.
It represents our greatest purpose, showcases our talents, highlights our strengths, and reminds us that we can do all things together.
This is who we are.
Esto es quién somos. Achmato the witched outcome.
This is who we are.
We are Phoenix Union.
This is who we are. We're more than a phrase on a poster, a poem in a book, or a mural on a wall.
This is who we are. It's a testament to our resilience, our compassion, our hopes, and our dreams.
Somos inclusivos, somos dinámicos, somos diversos.
In Phoenix Union, we strive to be greater no matter the path we choose for our lives.
We welcome, love, and inspire all to go places and do things that matter.
Our teachers believe in us, our staff supports us, our administrators motivate us, and above all, our district believes in us.
This is who we are is more than a saying.
It represents our greatest purpose, showcases our talents, highlights our strengths, and reminds us that we can do all things together.
This is who we are.
Esto es quién somos. Achmato the witched outcome.
This is who we are.
We are Phoenix Union.
This is who we are. We're more than a phrase on a poster, a poem in a book, or a mural on a wall.
This is who we are. It's a testament to our resilience, our compassion, our hopes, and our dreams.
Somos inclusivos, somos dinámicos, somos diversos.
In Phoenix Union, we strive to be greater no matter the path we choose for our lives.
We welcome, love, and inspire all to go places and do things that matter.
Our teachers believe in us, our staff supports us, our administrators motivate us, and above all, our district believes in us.
This is who we are is more than a saying.
It represents our greatest purpose, showcases our talents, highlights our strengths, and reminds us that we can do all things together.
This is who we are.
Esto es quién somos. Achmato the witched outcome.
This is who we are.
We are Phoenix Union.
This is who we are. We're more than a phrase on a poster, a poem in a book, or a mural on a wall.
This is who we are. It's a testament to our resilience, our compassion, our hopes, and our dreams.
Somos inclusivos, somos dinámicos, somos diversos.
In Phoenix Union, we strive to be greater no matter the path we choose for our lives.
We welcome, love, and inspire all to go places and do things that matter.
Our teachers believe in us, our staff supports us, our administrators motivate us, and above all, our district believes in us.
This is who we are is more than a saying.
It represents our greatest purpose, showcases our talents, highlights our strengths, and reminds us that we can do all things together.
This is who we are.
Esto es quién somos. Achmato the widget atom.
This is who we are.
We are Phoenix Union.
This is who we are. We're more than a phrase on a poster, a poem in a book, or a mural on a wall.
This is who we are. It's a testament to our resilience, our compassion, our hopes, and our dreams.
Somos inclusivos, somos dinámicos, somos diversos.
In Phoenix Union, we strive to be greater no matter the path we choose for our lives.
We welcome, love, and inspire all to go places and do things that matter.
Our teachers believe in us, our staff supports us, our administrators motivate us, and above all, our district believes in us.
This is who we are is more than a saying.
It represents our greatest purpose, showcases our talents, highlights our strengths, and reminds us that we can do all things together.
This is who we are.
Esto es quién somos. Achmato the widget atom.
This is who we are.
We are Phoenix Union.
This is who we are. We're more than a phrase on a poster, a poem in a book, or a mural on a wall.
This is who we are. It's a testament to our resilience, our compassion, our hopes, and our dreams.
Somos inclusivos, somos dinámicos, somos diversos.
In Phoenix Union, we strive to be greater no matter the path we choose for our lives.
We welcome, love, and inspire all to go places and do things that matter.
Our teachers believe in us, our staff supports us, our administrators motivate us, and above all, our district believes in us.
This is who we are is more than a saying.
It represents our greatest purpose, showcases our talents, highlights our strengths, and reminds us that we can do all things together.
This is who we are.
Esto es quién somos. Achmato the widget atom.
This is who we are.
We are Phoenix Union.
Good evening. We are waiting for quorum. So for those of you who are online, we will be starting as soon as that we have enough people. Thank you.
The public hearing on the budget and truth in taxation are called to order. Will the secretary please note that all board members are present with the exception of member Para. She's online. So will the secretary please note that all members are present? Please note that today's meetings are being live streamed. Also, please note that we have Spanish interpretation services available in the back of the room. On my brain, I'm tired. Member Hernandez, please will you read the screen? Thank you.
Buenas tardes. Si necesita intérprete en español, favor de mirar a Joel que se encuentra atrás del cuarto. Gracias.
Thank you. Item 2A, public hearings on the 2023-2024 proposed budget and 2023-2024 truth and taxation notice. Ms. Andrade.
Well, good evening, President Ross, members of the board and community. Tonight we have a public hearing and truth and taxation notice. Presenting tonight will be our CFO, Sherry Salaya, on the proposed budget and the process. Immediately following her presentation, there will be an opportunity for public comment and or questions. I do want to remind the board, this is, your questions come in the next meeting, so this is really an opportunity for the public's questions only. But with that said, Ms. Salaya.
Thank you, Superintendent Andrade. Good evening, President Ross, members of the Governing Board, Superintendent Andrade, Dr. Guestin, and community. This evening, I will provide a brief summary of the 2023-2024 proposed budget. Directly following the presentation, we will hold public hearings for truth and taxation and the proposed budget to allow for comments or questions from the public. After the hearings conclude, we will then move to the special meeting to adopt the proposed budget. At this time, board members will have the opportunity to ask questions or make comments. Please keep in mind that both the proposed budget and notice of truth and taxation were advertised as required by statute for public review. And also, PXU's operating budget is dynamic and will be revised prior to the end of the fiscal year. Before getting into the details of the proposed budget, I would like to spend just a little time reviewing the budget development process utilized here at PXU. To set context, it's important to remember that Arizona funds public schools poorly. Our per pupil funding typically ranks at or near the bottom of all 50 states. It's also important to remember that, like all other school districts, 87% of our operating budget is staff, salaries, and benefits. As you can see here on this slide, it is our strategic plan that drives all funding. Every employee initiative and expense is strategic plan aligned so that we can track effectiveness and efficiency as it relates to our goals. These are known as key performance indicators. Because of this, the majority of our operating budget is determined using two processes, IBN and staffing. Both processes are negotiated and specific professional agreement language is followed to ensure consistency and fairness. Campus staffing allocations are developed using the negotiated student-teacher ratios for classroom teachers. Ratios for classified staff are based upon student enrollment and other unique circumstances such as instructional assistance for students with special needs. Sites also receive supply, service, and capital funds based upon a per-pupil allocation. Departments are funded based upon historical use or need and any additional requirements identified in strategic plan initiatives. We also anticipate budget increases in utilities, property and casualty insurance, maintenance agreements, medical benefits, and repairs to equipment or buildings. New strategic plan initiatives are typically funded by using grants or additional funds related to enrollment growth. This is one of the reasons student enrollment and retention is so critical for our district's continued improvement. Finally, as a best practice, we do hold contingency, which is simply unallocated budget capacity. The majority of our contingency is one-time funds that have accumulated over the years. Please understand, As best practice, one-time funds should not be allocated to recurring expenses. This graph depicts the breakdown of PXU's M&O operating budget by major category. As you can see, the majority of the budget is in salaries and benefits. The 2023-2024 state budget has been approved, and the legislature did provide just a slight increase over the 2% required statutory increase to the base level. The total increase now is at 2.92%. Due to our district's decline in ADM, the additional slight increase in funding will help cover the costs associated with the approved salaries and medical benefits increases. Another item to note included in the funding formula is an additional component, TEI, Teacher Experience Index. This is provided to help offset the higher salaries of more experienced teachers. PXU is fortunate to have an experienced teaching staff. However, our TEI is tearing down slightly each year as our more experienced teachers retire. We also receive a component in the funding formula, District Additional Assistance, that is flexible in use either in the operating or capital budgets. Several years ago, PXU established a goal to maintain a 75-25% split, with 75% going to operations and 25% to capital. Finally, we are pleased to inform you that our legislature did provide significant additional one-time funding of approximately $7.7 million. Board, just as a reminder, these are some of the previously approved IBN items. I'm going to give you just a minute to take a look and review these items. Okay, ready to move on? Okay. In this slide, we continue with IBN items that were previously approved. However, because we received additional one-time funds, the IBN team reconvened for round 2 as required by the professional agreement. Consensus was reached increasing the one-time payment for all eligible full-time staff by $1,250 and $500 for part-time staff. This will now provide a total one-time payment of $2,000 for full-time staff and $1,000 for part-time staff. The additional one-time payment of $1,250 will also be provided to eligible new hires. The following graph depicts the district's historical tax rate along with the estimated tax rate for next year. The projected decline of 16 cents is specific to the primary tax rate. This reduction is related to the increase in our district's assessed value. We anticipate that the secondary rate will remain constant. I will now move us into our public hearings. Are there any questions or comments from our public regarding truth in taxation?
All right. Please note that this is a public hearing, so there is no official time limit on public comments. There will be people will be allowed 2 minutes, and I'm going to call Lady Robledo to the podium.
Board Member Napa, I guess the question would be, is this related to budget or truth in taxation? Because we haven't gotten to the truth in taxation hearing yet.
All I have are names.
Okay.
Have either, this is not general public comment. This is either comment on the budget first, on the proposed budget, issues that are specifically included. That's what the public can comment on. And then the truth and taxation notice is next. So,
This one's truth and taxation.
Oh,
and
so
then
we've got
budget
truth
is
and
next.
taxation.
So
Okay, so.
The questions now would be specific to truth and taxation.
Yeah.
we could, if we don't know what the individuals want to speak on, we could move to the budget right now, and we could combine the truth and taxation and the public hearing on the budget. Let's do that.
Sure. Okay. So we will now have the hearing for the proposed 2023-2024 proposed budget along with truth and taxation. Okay.
Is there a motion to adjourn the public hearing? Do I jump to?
No, no,
I
no.
do two. I go to the budget one, right?
No, right now, we're going to hear from the members of the public who either want to speak about the budget or about truth and taxation. So we need to have those public hearings first, then we'll adjourn this meeting, and then the board will deliberate about whether or not it's going to approve the budget. So all the individuals who'd like to speak now about budget or truth and taxation may do so.
Okay, 2-minute limit. Lady Robledo. Lady here? Online? All right, 3, 2, 1. Jaden Huerta, followed by Michelle Ruiz.
Okay.
Can you indicate whether you're speaking about the budget or the truth and taxation notice?
I'm speaking regarding the budget. My question is, in the past study sessions, we have heard that the district's list of scary surveillance items that they want to invest in. So how can the district and the board be held accountable if there is criminalization done towards these students?
Do I go? Okay. I didn't hear it well.
Does anybody have an answer to that?
I didn't hear the question really well. I apologize.
So my question is regarding the budget. So in the past, the study sessions, we've heard lists of like different scary surveillance items that the district was wanting to invest in, and I just want to know, like, how will the board be held accountable and the district be held accountable if these practices and surveillance investments, you know, end up criminalizing students or pushing them down the school-to-prison pipeline?
Yeah, I don't think that budget's going to be able to provide an answer for that question.
Yeah, I called her.
Hello, my question's regarding the budget. My question is, how can the board make the budget more student-friendly, as we have a bunch of students who have questions regarding where the budget and money is going into things that they care about, like student-led programs, because of the budget is really confusing, even for myself, that my job is to like look at city budgets, districts budgets. It's like, how can we make it more easier for students and have them be part of this process?
President Ross, members of the board, that is a great question. I myself took school finance and still struggled. So the budget's never something easy to understand. I'm sure that our executive team and members of finance could answer questions that you have and maybe do a study session around the budget that can help get at the level of detail that you're looking for, because I think it comes in a broad sense, and it's tough to interpret. So hopefully a study session in the future could help open to the public. Thank you.
Yes, I would like to respond to Michelle Ruiz's question too. I feel, in the previous board meeting, there could have been a student-focused section to talk about the budget and to put in layman's terms what this budget actually funds. And so that way, the public and students can come to this meeting with their questions, very specifically about budget, about student-led programs, and areas that interest them. And I also think, students and the community can email the board and let us know where those questions are and what they want to address as well prior to that public presentation by PXU. That's a really great question. Thank you, Michelle.
Superintendent Andrade, President Ross, I agree. I think if we had specific areas of interest and we were able to kind of narrow down, because it's a very large budget. There's a lot of lines in that budget. So if we had a little bit more detail on their interests, we could narrow that focus down and be able to educate, do a study session and then respond to some of those questions.
And if there's an opportunity, I really don't want to be on a committee, but or create a committee. However, I would be willing to take lead on that and be the person on the board that receives that information and can disseminate it to the executive committee and work on that. So that way it's presentable and it's official. Okay, so those were our three speakers who signed up. If any members of the public would like to address anything about the proposed budget or the taxation, you can come to the podium.
Madam President, can I ask a question first? What's that? Well, I guess it was a question related to one of the public comments. Is that not? Okay.
Can you please identify yourself and what you're going to speak on?
Yes, thank you. My name is Stephanie Gonzalez Espinosa, community member, and I had questions around the budget, and I know our folks have a lot of questions, but mine specifically right now is we had a lot of recommendations passed during the last board meeting regarding safety, and because the budget is so hard to interpret to our folks and people in the community, people want to make sure there's the money allocated because we always come back to money. It's all about money. It's all about the funding if we are able to do things. So we would like to know specifically on the budget where that money is being allocated to specific recommendations. I did see something around infrastructure needs. So I know there was a recommendation passed regarding infrastructure, so was money allocated for that? And is there a list of those infrastructure needs, or who is deciding on what those needs are that money's going to be used for?
We do have folks who have gone out and assessed our campuses, our safety team, along with our building services team, related to infrastructure, specifically related to safety also. We've had experts come out and look at it. So I do believe that there is a pretty comprehensive and thorough list that has been developed related to safety improvements for infrastructure. Some of those items have been taken care of with the current 2017 bond. Many of those items, though, are proposed and planned in the November 2023 bond. The governing board called that election, I believe, at the May meeting.
Anyone else wanting to speak on the budget or taxation? All right. Thank you so much. Please identify yourself and what you're going to speak on.
Okay. Yes. Hi, my name is Isabel Garcia, and I'm going to speak on the budget. So just piggybacking off of what Stephanie said, is it possible for the public to get like an abbreviated version of the budget that highlights where in the budget the safety recommendations were allocated? Could we get more information about the infrastructure, funding decisions that were made? Yeah, could something like that be created for the public to look at so that we can see more clearly how the budget, how the safety recommendations that were approved on June 1st is being reflected in the budget that's being approved today, or that I'm assuming that y'all are going to approve today. And also, so Poder in Action, we have a lot of expertise on educating the public and community members on budgets. So we would love to partner with the board and with the district so that, you know, in that study session, if we end up having, you know, study sessions, we would love to support in bringing that information to community so that students and parents and the PXU community can get this information about how the budget works, how it's structured, the process, so that they can be more involved, and then maybe next year there's more people here asking questions about the budget. So yeah, we would love to have more conversation about that.
President Ross? Yes. For Isabel? Can I? Yeah. Thank you for lifting up the work that Poder does with the public, especially regarding budgets. It's really important that we know where the money comes from and where the money is allocated and will be spent. I'm wondering if you can send the board Poder's, if there's any existing curriculum around that, and then so that way we can look at it and see if a partnership would be possible.
Yeah, for sure. We have a City Budget 101 curriculum where we explain how the City of Phoenix budget process works and how money is allocated and the way money comes in and out. So yeah, we can share that with you, and we can be in more contact about that. Awesome, thank you.
President Ross and Board Member Napa, we also, the budget itself was advertised on the Arizona Department of Education's website. Development of the budget, at least the budget limits, the revenue is pretty prescriptive. There's a formula, it's formula driven. Arizona Association of School Business Officials has Budget 101, and we have also here at Phoenix Union kind of developed a Budget 101 class. We're happy to share that information. There is a summary form of the budget itself. You're not going to be able to look at that form though and see safety. It doesn't, jump out at you safety, but we certainly in a future study session could show you the lines where safety kind of rolls into, because you're seeing the very large roll-up numbers there. Just to give you perspective though, we probably have over 100 funds, different funds, funding sources with restrictions on those funding sources. Thousands and thousands of lines, individual lines of budget. So there's a lot of detail in there. So we could definitely drill down on those areas, but unless somebody wants to really get in and get their feet wet, they're probably not going to wade through all the detail. So.
Anyone else wanting to speak? Thank you so much. Please identify yourself. You have 2 minutes and what you want to speak on.
Hi, my name is Carla Rangel, and I'm going to be talking on behalf of the budgeting. So my question is, I'm a student at Trevor Brown High School, and my question is to you guys about how can I, as a student, be more involved of having input on how our district spends funds? Like, how can we, in the future, how can students vote on certain things or have some type of forms they could fill out to have some type of input in these fundings? Thank you.
Do we have a response for Ms. Carla?
That's okay. President Ross, members of the board, I definitely hear your request. We do currently have a participatory budgeting process which all students can vote on, and it informs, in the past it was safety measures, but it can be campus-related general. It doesn't have to just be safety. But if what I'm hearing is correct, you want even more input. And so we can look at what it would take to cast either a Microsoft Forms or something out to our students so that we can hear their voice as well and what's important to them and what matters. So, thank you.
Litzy. Oh, wait a second. Hello, my name is Litzy, and I'm speaking on the behalf of the budget. Okay. What specific investments will be made for the students-led projects? And also, can I add, where is the budget? Like, where in the budget will be how do you say that word? Prioritizing for mental health and students-led projects.
That second question, where in the budget is the prioritization for mental health?
Yeah, and student-led projects. And how much money?
Each campus has an allocation, a budget that is under control of the principal, and they would be leading any campus-specific student-led projects. You know, and there are many groups out there and many different funding sources, but there are groups such as robotics, and there's many campus-led initiatives that occur at our campuses. For mental health services, you know, we've talked over the past several months about how the district has grown our mental health services, you know, both for staff and students. That's in a department budget, you know, which is under teaching and learning previously, and under Ms. Andrade's supervision in her previous role. And we've doubled that amount of money, I think, over the past several years, and it's approaching 30 million, I believe, now in this budget. Yeah.
I believe it's about 35 million.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? You have 2 minutes. Please identify yourself and what you'll be speaking on.
Hello, my name is Jason, and today I'm speaking on the budget. As a student, how can you make it more accessible? Because they only choose some students, and as a student that never participated on this budget process, how can the schools be more accountable for not doing a great outreach? No.
Jason, I just want to summarize. What I heard was, as a student, how can the budget process be more accessible to students? And a second question, how can schools be more accountable to make sure students are a part of this process?
Correct.
Okay, President Ross, members of the board, and Jason, thank you for sharing that. Again, I would think that if we could do a student study session, really a public study session around the board with student-led questions and format, so that they can both access it as well as understand it. And then, again, I would say through the revised budget process at the end of the year, there's that accountability component to, did we do what we say we were going to do? Whether that's through a key performance objective that we share, or whether that's just through progress on the next-gen safety security. Kind of depends on what part of the budget we're talking about. But we can have a follow-up study session to ensure that your voices are included and heard. Thank you.
Members of the public? Thank you so much. Please identify yourself. You have 2 minutes and what you want to speak on.
Yes, Vanessa Jimenez. I'd like to speak on the budget as a neighbor and community member. I'd like the board to look into FTEs. We've talked about safety, but there's a lot of other departments that are struggling, especially since the pandemic. Our technology and logistics have been hit really hard. We have not increased those FTEs, but we have increased our one-to-one for staff and students. I'd like to see us look at PD, shameless plug for professional development, small but mighty department of one, but in the last board meetings, we have said that we will do more professional development for our ESPs, so I'd like us to look into what is that going to look at. Accessibility is going to be a challenge. I'd also like to see us look at our trades and our custodial maintenance departments. We continue to increase buildings with this bond that's going to pass. That means we will be putting more money into our buildings, and so our trades will need some assistance. So I'd like us to really pick apart those FTEs and see how we can get some assistance for my colleagues and myself. Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Camila Hernandez. I'm a former Phoenix Union student from North. And what else did you say? Sorry.
What you're going to speak on?
Oh, yeah, the budget, I guess. I just have a question, basically. And my question is, where in the budget are the results of the participatory budget process that Phoenix Union has been conducting for the past 2 years?
So, Superintendent Andrade and President Ross, the results of the participatory budget would not be part of the budget itself. You know, the budget would only hold the budget capacity that accommodates that process, the dollars that would accommodate that process, but not results.
President Ross, members of the board, thank you, Ms. Zelaya. The PB winners you can learn about from Ms. Alyssa Tarkington. I believe she is here with us tonight. I don't know if she's able to speak to those winning nominations, but the allocation is from the budget. I can give her a minute, but no, Alyssa.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Hello, Superintendent Andrade, President Ross, governing board members, thank you. If you will just give me one moment. We had 3 processes for our participatory budgeting, and we're able to conduct our voting this semester. And so we had from our students, we really had 2 very close hand in hand. And so the winning project were an opportunity to have more college and career fairs, and then also to be able to have, tagged as literal, the period packs or hygiene products accessible to all students. For our parents, the winning project were to be able to provide an opportunity to do what's tagged the Street Smarts series. And so being able to conduct workshops on areas important to parents, really for students and families. Just to give you an example of what that might look like, that might be the safe commute, to and from school. It might be something like similar to what we were able to do in the town hall at the end of the semester, fentanyl awareness. And so that was the parent winning project. And then the final winning project for staff were the mindfulness lounges on each campus. Some of our campuses already began through their wellness work with the talent division, began that a couple years ago. So that is, those are the 3 winning projects that we will be implementing over the course of this next school year.
Thank you, Ms. Tarkington.
Thank you, President Ross. Okay, I'll save it. I'll write it down.
Last call for members of the public to speak. Please state your name, what you're going to speak on. You have 2 minutes. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Audie, and I'm speaking on the whole budget thing. And I was just wondering how Phoenix Union is prioritizing students in the budget, whether it is resources for students and just anything involving them. And I just want to say that the study group does sound good. And I will ask to listen to all students, whether it's queer students, disabled students, students of color, just everyone, so you can get a word in. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much.
Would you like me to respond to that, Superintendent Andrade? As stated during my presentation, our budget is aligned to our strategic plan, and of course, our strategic plan is align to our commitments. You know, one of the top commitments we have is student achievement, also health and safety, health and wellness of students. So we do align our resources, you know, towards, you know, the success. You know, we want our students to be highly successful, you know, and engaged and healthy. So we do align our budget according to that strategic plan, and we prioritize it, you know, based upon what we believe is most important. And of course, it is going to be our students.
Thank you. Please state your name, what you're going to speak on. You have 2 minutes.
For sure. My name is Luke Black. I'm going to speak on the budget. Thank you for taking these questions from all of us. Specifically want to ask a safety-related question. The board did approve an IGA with funding for 6 officers that comes from the Department of Public Education. But the board also, in that conversation, the board also identified that the district will be using off-duty officers for things like sporting events and other things that the SROs are not able to cover. Where is the allocation for that? How much are we allocating for off-duty officers? And because a question around that is that the board has had to approve that funding. By voting on this budget today, is the board approving funding for off-duty officers? And how much are we approving? Thank you.
In the budget itself, we have $56,000 allocated for off-duty officers. And of course, once grant are received, that would be the funding, and I'm assuming it would be sufficient to cover the 6 officers, you know, based upon the grant.
Okay, and then a follow-up question. As the district spends that $56,000, I mean, that, at our current burn rate, that's going to get us through like 2 months. So is the board going to have to approve additional funding?
Well, I believe that part of that current spend for this year was, it was in addition, over and above off-duty, because it was, because we didn't have the plan and the grant, and we didn't have the officers available to us. So I believe that it would be, we would be anticipating that actual off-duty amount to go down. You know, hopefully I've answered your question with that. Yes. Because, you know, with the 6 officers available, you know, district-wide, that would reduce that need.
Reduce the use of officers. Yes. And then should reduce the amount of money we're spending on off-duty officers. Okay, cool.
I'm sorry, did I hear an answer to the second question? Is the board approving for off-duty officers in this budget?
Well, it sounds like you're approving $56K.
And President Ross, members of the board, I just want to double check with Ms. Salaya. Is that the amount set aside for events and extra duty beyond the school day?
Yes.
And is there a recurring amount for officers that, should we need support during the school day?
There is.
Okay, and what's that amount?
It's about $500,000, I believe. It's in a line sitting, should we need it. Yeah.
Okay, so the district has $500,000 sitting there waiting for the potential to use off-duty officers during school hours.
Should we need it, yes.
Should we need it. Okay, got it. Thank you.
Are there any more members of the public? 3, 2, 1. I think we're good.
Mic's not on. Is there a motion to adjourn the public hearing? Is there a second? A motion has been made by Member Austin, seconded by Member Oliver. On that motion, those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries. This meeting is adjourned. The special budget meeting is called to order. Will the secretary please note that all board members are present? The first item is the Pledge of Allegiance. Will everyone stand while Board Member Marquez leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and a moment of silence is observed. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is 1D, Land Acknowledgement Statement. Please remain seated as Board Member Hernandez reads the PXU Land Acknowledgement Statement.
Thank you, President Ross. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. Land acknowledgement. We are an Autumn land. The Phoenix Union High School District is responsible for and committed to creating educational environments that prioritize the achievements of Native American students. We are committed to making their cultural identity visible by acknowledging that our school district resides upon the ancestral lands of the original caretakers, the Hohokam ancestors of the Akimraatam, Ankh-Akimraatam, Tana'atam, and Akchin. These sovereign nations are presently known as the Gila River Indian Community, Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian Community, and the Tana'atam Nation and Akchin Indian Community. This formal acknowledgement is dedicated to the 22 sovereign nations of Arizona. Phoenix Union understands the importance of providing reparations through truth-telling. We recognize that historical injustice is not traditionally taught in the classroom and are committed to prioritizing Native American knowledge, history, representation, and healing. We commit with an open mind to always respect the land, its histories, and its ancestors.
Thank you, Member Hernandez. Ms. Andrade.
President Ross, members of the board, on June 1st, you'll recall we brought the budget to you. It was inside of board docs. We had an opportunity also to advertise that, as Ms. Celaya said, both on the Arizona Department of Education website as well as our own PXU website. We have asked you to submit any questions you have. We've provided those answers and will continue to provide those answers as the questions come in. I want to remind everyone that the budget is a dynamic and fluid process that can be revised with at different times throughout the year and often is. This is simply meeting a deadline for the Department of Education to upload where we are as of now on the budget. So with that said, we're here to answer any questions you have, but if there aren't any further questions, again, I want to just clarify, we recommend the adoption of the 23-24 budget.
Mr. Marquez and Ms. Hernandez, now is the time for those questions you had earlier. Who would like to go first? Ms. Hernandez.
Thank you, President Ross. My question was just if we can get what Ms. Tarkington said about the participatory budget in a written form, in a document, because I was trying to keep up, but I couldn't.
President Ross, members of the board, we would be happy to provide that to all members of the board, as well as put it out there publicly so our parents, staff, and students can see the results of their voting. Thank you.
Mr. Marquez.
Thank you, Madam President. Superintendent Andrade and team, I was hoping from some of the questions I submitted previously this month, you could first look at slide that you shared with the board entitled PXU ACT benchmarks met for spring 2022 and benchmarks for 2023 preliminary data, and just explain what that slide means in terms of each category met or not met, and what our goals are as a district for where we'd like to be. And then I guess related to the budget, what are we doing in the budget to achieve those goals?
Mr. Marquez, okay, Lynn.
Need to be directed to budget amounts. So you can decrease the budget, you can't increase the budget, but they need to be directed to budget amounts because issues about other issues are not on the agenda. The public doesn't know you're going to discuss them. So you all need to exercise some self-control in making this about the budget and budget questions, again, because otherwise if it's about performance, student achievement, things like that, the public doesn't have notice that you're going to discuss those. So I'm not saying that that's not, but I'm just going to lay the land here. This is not a freewheeling discussion about everything related to the district or the district's operations. It is about the budget that's before you.
Just to clarify, I submitted these questions at the June meeting. I asked that they be posted for the public to review prior to this meeting, and I'm just following up on the questions.
Are they about the budget?
Yes, specifically about the budget.
Are they are they, I don't care if they were posted for the public? The agenda says this is about your discussion about the adoption of the budget. So they have to be related to the adoption of the budget and not again, it's not a freewheeling discussion about the general operations of the district. So if you have specific items that you'd like to raise, then you can do that.
Yep, I definitely.
Okay, the posting of your questions in advance doesn't change the scope of the meeting. The meeting is about adopting the budget.
Right.
Thank you, Lynn. Mr. Marquez, when you ask your question, for my short attention span, if you could like condense your question as much as possible so that I can follow you. So you have clarified with Lynn that this question is specifically about the budget. Will you restate it, but like I had a hard time with my short attention span staying with you. Are you able to condense it for me, please?
Yes. Related to question 9, 2023 student achievement that was provided to the board as related to the budget. There's a slide that was provided to us in the list of responses that outlined the PXU ACT benchmarks met for the spring 2022 and the preliminary data for 2023 ACT benchmarks. I'd like to hear how this budget is getting us to our goals for those benchmarks and sort of just explain this slide for us and the public.
I think I understand. I'm just a little confused. So Sherry, I'm going to lean on you heavily for this. I think Mr. Marquez is asking how we're using the budget to meet our ACT goals. It sounds like is what I'm getting from Mr. Mark. And I don't know if that's a reach as far as a budget question, Sherry. So I'm going to lean on you unfairly to respond, please.
President Ross, Board Member Marcus, the Teaching and Learning Division specifically will take, they have their budget allocation. They have one of the largest allocations, that division in the district, in addition to the majority of the Title I funding. I'm sure they're going to be doing a deep dive this summer and all throughout the year based on student results, and they adjust strategic plan accordingly, and then reallocate funding sources toward that. In addition to that, if there is a need for increased allocations, then there's a discussion at the leadership table, regarding that. Again, keeping in mind that new recurring revenue is very tight. So as a team, we have to take a look at that, along with governing board, because of the IBM process, and the goal to keep, compensation competitive. So there's always very competing priorities for new recurring revenues. But that's something that's constantly being looked at by that division.
President Ross and members of the board, thank you, Ms. Celaya. I would also say that if it would be helpful to us to further break down the teaching and learning budget for you and how that's allocated by campus, I can tell you that ACT is our benchmark for college and career readiness, and so that drives a lot of our decision-making. We continue to invest heavily in the budget around professional development, both for our ESPs as well as our certified. We invest in the teaching and learning framework for all our teachers and administrators. We've put a significant amount of effort and budget into guaranteed viable curriculum. So these essential standards that students will master. ACT boot camps, I could go on and on. Support for teachers, professional development, wraparound services, all those things contribute to that ACT score by campus. But I think if we can look at it by campus with the most recent scores, and I would also suggest looking at multiple measures of growth, not just ACT, but multiple measures. So, thank you.
Can I ask a follow-up on that particular question?
Yes.
So not everybody has the slide that was shared with us previously, but so on this slide, it says 17% of students met the English percentage goal, I think is what it's saying. And that was in 2022. And sort of this was the one category that was the biggest drop, down to 13% in 2023. So I guess specifically when it comes to meeting ACT benchmarks around English, is our goal 17%? What is our goal? And, you know, we dropped to 13%. How are we going to address that in the budget?
Academic performance question. That's not a budget question. If you want to ask about resources that are allocated for things, but that is not a budget question.
Lynn, I disagree.
Well, I think your board members also disagree with me. It's not a budget question. You're asking about performance measures and where your goals are. If you want to tie it to a budget number, I think Ms. Zelaya did that with you, but it is an academic performance goal-setting issue.
And I think they're connected.
I understand you think they're connected.
I don't think we should disconnect our achievement goals from the budget that we approved.
I'm not saying that you should, but this is a budget discussion. Academic performance, if I'm a member of the community and I think you're going to talk about your academic performance goals, maybe I'll show up. Maybe I won't for something where I think you're going to talk about the numbers that are in the budget. That's what this hearing is. You've heard about the budget. It's about the numbers in the budget, and do you want to keep those numbers in the budget? Do you want to make changes to the budget?
Okay.
Clerk Napa, I'll come back to you, Mr. Marquez.
Yep.
Clerk Napa.
Thank you so much. I have several questions, and I would like to ask them one at a time and then get a response, so that way I'm not overloading people. First question, the one-time $7 million, what will this fund?
Board President Ross, Member Napa, the majority of that money will be funding the additional one-time payment to all of our staff, the $1,250 for full-time staff and $500 for part-time staff. So it'll be the salary and benefits associated with that.
If that's the majority, what other is the $7 million covering?
Currently, right now, it hasn't all been allocated out. You know, that is almost $6 million, though, of it, I believe. Will be required to fund that one-time payment.
Okay.
Other than that, we haven't sat down and made a determination on the use of the one-time funds.
Sure.
That's something that we would be doing, you know, sometime this summer or maybe early fall.
Okay, thank you. Coming back to public comment, I heard a lot of questions, and I think this is hopefully an easy answer. I'm looking at the agenda that's posted, and we're looking at the budget categories. There's a total of $658.1 million, and there are budget categories, maintenance and operations, regular, co-curricular activities, and athletics, et cetera, et cetera. The participatory budget, what area does that come from?
It's going to depend on the item that they selected as a winner. So if it's a service or a salary or it's some type of supply item, that will be in your operating budget. However, sometimes they come in with a solution that's a piece of furniture or some improvement to property, and that will have to come out of the capital budget.
So when I hear participatory budget, the number that I've been hearing for a number of years is 1.2 million. So that 1.2 million is grabbed from specific areas, or is that 1.2 million put aside and then allocated to those budget lines?
It is set aside, and then it is allocated out to those specific areas, you know, depending on the winners for that. And please keep in mind that we do have a section of our operating budget that's a little flexible, that can go between capital and operations. You know, but right now, if it comes in as a capital item, then we will fund it out of that capital area. And many of them have come in as operations, though, and we've funded out of operations.
Thank you, Ms. Zelaya. Because we do have students in the audience, I would like to have just a general definition of what capital budget means.
Okay. Well, and Arizona has a little bit of a unique definition for capital budget. So primarily, it's going to be buildings, vehicles, these larger items, computers, tablets, software. Where it gets a little gray and fuzzy in the state of Arizona is Arizona considers your textbook a capital item. The instructional aids that go along with your textbook, such as a workbook, as a capital item. You know, many of those instructional aids, an instrument, a band instrument is a capital item. If you replenish your student uniforms for band, those are considered capital items. So that's where Arizona, the state of Arizona, is just a little different than some other states because the useful life of those things isn't necessarily long. And it also has to do with useful life, you know, because usually capital items are things that last a little longer, probably longer than a year, and it aren't consumable like paper. Hopefully that helps.
That does help. And coming back to Ms. Jimenez's question regarding classified funding, what I heard from that was currently she is a one-person show as far as professional development and training. Number one, where can the board advocate for support for a request like that? Because, you know, we are a big district, and it's amazing to me that we have one person heading the helm of training, going to these conferences, and then trying to disseminate what they learned into curriculum for our certified staff. So where do we look for that money to support a position like that?
President Ross, Board Member Napa, you know, as stated previously, there are many competing needs for new recurring revenue. And the district has made a lot of progress because when I first came into the district 8 years ago, we had no or very little money set aside for classified professional development, and there certainly wasn't a person in charge of it. And so we've come a long way, and I believe we have $500,000, at least $500,000 now set aside for classified professional development. And Ms. Jimenez, who's doing a great job. I think that, you know, there's a couple of possibilities. We always want to seek additional outside funding sources, grants, you know, especially recurring grants. That would be great, you know, to have other recurring sources of funding. But in addition to that, you know, when we do go to the IBN table, if it is a priority, we have to state those priorities right at the beginning. And, you know, if it's something that we as a district believe in, then it has to be taken off right off the top of any new recurring money. It does reduce the amount that's available, though, for salary and benefits increases.
And my final question, the board received a document titled Classified Employee Association Ratio Language. Specifically in there, what caught my attention was the information specifically about custodians. No campus shall be staffed in such a way that the average area needing to be cleaned will exceed 35,000 square feet. And once campuses reach a student enrollment exceeding 2,750, it will receive one additional full-time custodian at the rate of 1 per 250 students. And in the documents we received, we also got a campus per pupil funding. And right now we have 2 campuses that exceed that 2,750, which is Trevor Brown at 2,812 point ... and then also Maryville, which is at 2,734. So Maryville is approaching that, but Trevor Brown right now is exceeding that. Has the budget already considered those numbers, and or it already is funding extra custodial staff for that?
Board President Ross, Member Napa, I'm going to punt this one over to Mr. Lopez in talent, and also talent does hold a little bit of a contingency for staffing adjustments as required throughout the year.
So President Ross, Superintendent Andrade, and Dr. Gaston, and Clerk Napa, these ratios are the ones that are currently in place in the professional agreement. It is possible that some of these were put in place 10, 20, 30 years ago. And so as we go through the negotiation process, we review current language, including current ratios. So this year coming up, we'll do the same thing regarding, are these the right ratios for these specific positions identified here? And are there some positions that aren't here that need to be added on? So that'll be what our goal will be. And so very tuned in to what Ms. Jimenez had stated, and so Dr. Gard, who is our Director for Classified, is very much tuned in as well. So we will absolutely work on those. For any particular campuses that exceed certain numbers, our allocation has to reflect what is in the current PA regarding those ratios. So we will continue to review, and if we need to add the additional, we will make sure that we make that happen.
Those are all my questions.
Mr. Marquez, I'll return to you if you have budget-related questions. Okay.
In the responses that we received from the executive team, two of the responses highlighted comparability of per pupil spending and also comparability of instructional staffing ratios. Superintendent Andrade, or your team, I was hoping you could highlight, what we're doing to make sure that in this budget, we're addressing disparity across small schools and large schools. Specific example is, Maryville per pupil spending compared to coding academies per pupil spending, and specific staffing ratio example is Fairfax's staffing ratios compared to biosciences staffing ratios.
I would kindly turn it over to Mr. Lopez to discuss the comparability report that we complete each year for the Department of Ed.
President Ross, Superintendent Andrade, Dr. Gaston, and Board Member Marquez. The comparability report that that we have provided to you as board members, these are driven by the state. And so we need to make sure that we are abiding by that ratio that's required. No more than 10 above, no more than 10 below. And then we need to make sure that we make any adjustments as appropriate. In regards to any of the allocations that are provided here, we continue to look at what our numbers are, and we make adjustments to make sure that we are compliant with that. If there are schools that are showing some growth that are moving in a higher direction, other schools that are dropping, then we make that adjustment for the next year as well. Small schools are always probably our most challenging, and so unfortunately over the years, Ms. Tejas, who served in the position of Executive Director for Talent, had worked very closely with the state to allow us to compare small schools to small schools and comprehensive to comprehensive. This last year, that was thrown out. And so we continue to work with the Department of Education to make sure that we are doing everything we can to be fair, to ensure that we don't have a discrepancy that's such that it's too extreme from one school to another school, and that's still going to be one of our challenges that we face this year coming up. The other piece is that online school is also something that we have also struggled, and so we believe that ADE should be making adjustments so that we can compare the online schools to other online schools within the state compared to our regular schools. So this is fluid, and so I do know that Mr. Silvas and Ms. Williams are the ones that are directly involved with the actual report. So if there's anything else you need specific to how this report was completed, I would ask that they would come up, and if you have specific questions, you can ask them on those particular items.
I don't need to hear an answer tonight, but I would like to hear maybe in a follow-up response, specifically, how we're addressing the gap between Maryville and coding on per pupil spending, and then staffing between Fairfax and bioscience.
So, Mr. Silvas, Ms. Williams, if you could please.
And it doesn't have to be.
Yes.
Yeah. I keep saying this. We've got to focus on the budget numbers, just not generally about staffing and generally about how we do that, how we report. I understand, but some of the comments are getting far afield. So we need to continue to focus on the budget. For example, Clerk Napa's questions were all about budget line items and how they relate. So, and I understand this is about per pupil spending. that's fine, but we're not getting into a discussion of how we reallocate things like that.
I'm asking what in the budget is addressing.
That's fine, I just want to make sure that the answers stick to that.
Yep, thank you.
Board Member Marquez, we'd be happy to send you a breakdown comparing Fairfax to Code Academy and
And I
how
don't
that-
need that tonight. I know that's
Sure.
a very specific question, so if you want to follow up with that answer.
And I think the truth is that, you know, back in the day when Ms. Tejas did it, when ADE's policy allowed for us to compare small schools to small schools, apples to apples, again, a lot easier. It is certainly a challenge, but we'd be happy to send you more information on that report at a more appropriate time. Thank you.
Thank you. I just have two comments. So first, I think Clerk Napa suggested some sort of budget committee in response to a lot of the public comment we heard tonight, asking for more specificity, school-by-school specificity in the budget as presented, but also student-led initiatives, and then really, you know, a budget presented in layman's terms. I know Superintendent Andrade, you said you've taken formal classes on school finance, and as volunteer board members, it's very complicated to read a district-wide budget and really understand how that's driving our goals towards our strategic plan. So I'd really like us to, moving forward in the next school year, think about ways we can present the budget in a user-friendly way for students and community members to understand, and us and board members to better understand as well. And I hope if we create some sort of budget committee that seeks community input, student input, and then also makes suggestions looking at data for second semester adjustments as we get new data coming in based on this school year's student achievement data. And then secondly, my comment, I included this in the questions before, but I want to state it publicly. I think it's really important as policymakers that we start getting 3-year budget projections. And I understand that with Arizona state law, it's really hard to do future multi-year budget projections. But I hope we can do, you know, best case scenario, worst case scenario, and likely scenarios for the next 3 years. So as we think about, you know, moving, whether it's student achievement policies or school safety policies, we have a future landscape of funding that's projected based on taxes or ESSER or federal funding and funding that's going away. So I think 3-year budget projections is really important. With that, I'm done. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Marquez. Any other questions from the board? Okay. Is there a motion to adopt the 2023-2024 expenditure budget as proposed?
So moved.
There's a motion by Mr. Marquez and a second by Member Austin. On the motion, those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye as well. Motion carries. 3A, motion to adjourn. Is there a motion to adjourn the first special meeting on the budget? A motion has been made by Member Austin and seconded by Member Oliver. On the motion, those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, please indicate by saying nay. Motion carries. The first special meeting is adjourned. The second special meeting is called to order. Will the secretary please note that all board members are present? Did I go too fast for whoever's taking notes? We're good, okay. Sorry, I forgot to pause and let you get over there. Sorry about that. The first item on the agenda is item 2A, approval of the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? Is there a second? A motion has been made by Member Austin and seconded by Member Hernandez. On that motion, those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please indicate by saying nay. Any abstentions? The motion carries. The next item is our next regularly scheduled governing board meeting, which will be held on Thursday, August 3rd, at 6 p.m. in this room. The next item is 6B, request for future agenda items. Members, are there any items you would like to recommend to be considered for future board meeting? Ms. Hernandez.
Thank you, President Ross. For our meeting on August 3rd, can we add to the agenda an update on what is happening with the IGA and the hiring of the SROs? So we can update the board, but also the community.
Any other? Thank you, Ms. Hernandez. Yes, Clerk Napa.
Based on the IGA update and the hiring of SROs, I would like to get an update on job descriptions for the SROs, especially looking at the existing items of oversight and scale down.
Any other? Mr. Marquez.
Thanks, Madam President. I was hoping at our July retreat, one of the things we might talk about is, I think Board Member Pata actually suggested this at the last meeting, board professional development, and having clarity on individual board professional development for associations and conferences and different organizations that we might go to prepare us professionally as board members, and then also sort of collective board professional development, understanding as it relates to the budget, what is the budget for that? And should we have a formal conversation about, developing that budget?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Marquez. Yes, Clerk Napa.
Talking more about the retreat and the discussion here and the wanting of information about how budget is created, and then also lifting up that the retreat is it's a public meeting, right? So the public can actually not participate, but they can view, right?
Observe.
Yeah, I would love to either have at this July retreat or the January retreat, some information about budget, and then how the board can request budget items to be added to whatever we're approving budget-wise.
Any other? Member Oliver.
President Ross, I want to bring up, and maybe we did this in the last meeting, it was so late I can't remember. The bell schedule issue, is that going on the August agenda?
We have not created that agenda yet, so I cannot answer that.
I would propose that we.
So how it works is members' requests, items be placed on future agenda.
Okay.
And so it'll come at some point. We can't always guarantee that it'll be the very next month or the very next 2 months, but it is noted that it needs to come up in the future. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. Thank you.
Yes. Members, any other future agenda items? Member Para, are you online? Do you have any items for future meetings? Okay. Having concluded, thank you. Having concluded our business, is there a motion to adjourn the second special meeting? Is there a second? Motion has been made by Member Austin and seconded by Member Marquez. On that motion, those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, please indicate by saying nay. Motion carries. We are adjourned.